Welcome back to The Explainer. So glad you're joining us today because, well, we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to dive into our source material using the focus and structure of a visual exegesis. Think of it like a modern, highly analytical Bible study, but applied to a really fascinating piece of media. We're breaking down a publication cover that tackles this incredibly complex intersection of modern dating and spiritual faith. So, grab your metaphorical highlighters because we have a ton to unpack here. All right, here's our lesson plan for today's study. 1. The Kingdom Marriage Call. 2. Navigating Relational Brokenness. 3. Rejecting Secular Dating Trends. 4. Waiting for Divine Timing. And 5. Signs of Spiritual Preparation.
Okay, let's dive right into Chapter 1, The Kingdom Marriage Call.
So here is the complete, unfiltered context for our exegesis. This is our primary text. It's the cover of a publication titled The Kingdom Marriage Call. If you look closely at the metadata in the corners, you'll see this is Volume 1, Issue 3, released in spring 2024 by Prosperity Communications, and it retails for $8.99. The single image actually serves as a roadmap for a very specific spiritual worldview on relationships. It perfectly traces a classic redemption arc, literally taking us from worldly trauma all the way over to spiritual wholeness. Now, like any good text, this cover relies heavily on a central motif. Right smack in the middle, we have this massive, bisected heart. And it's not just decoration, right? It's the visual anchor for our entire study. It literally splits the composition down the middle, separating the left side of the page from the right and visually forcing us to compare two completely different states of being. Let's zoom in on that division. This brilliantly illustrates our core theme. Take a look at the left side. The heart, and actually the background itself, is depicted as cracked gray stone. It instantly communicates trauma, pain, and brokenness. But then, look at the right side. The background transitions to this warm, radiating light, and the right half of the heart is made of smooth, glowing, solid gold. The source is using this stark contrast to set up a really profound redemption narrative. We've got the heavy, shattered pain of the secular world on the left, directly opposed to the healed, golden promise of a spiritual solution on the right. Moving on to Section 2, Navigating Relational Brokenness. This brings us to what you might call the fall portion of our study. We're examining the stark realities of worldly dating presented on that cracked left side of the cover. Our first textual clue reads, "When adultery broke us up." This establishes that the starting point for this spiritual journey isn't some sugar-coated view of romance. No, it's deep relational brokenness. Adultery represents the ultimate betrayal of a covenant, meaning we are starting right in the rubble of a shattered relationship. Moving down to the next phrase, we see the toxic ex holding on nightmare. Still firmly planted on the gray side of the composition, this highlights that trauma doesn't just cleanly end when the relationship does, you know? The source acknowledges the lingering negative impacts of a toxic past, creating this total nightmare scenario that the reader is clearly meant to realize they need rescuing from. Which leads us to Section 3, Rejecting Secular Dating Trends. If the last section was the fall, well, this is the repentance or sanctification phase of our lesson, focusing on active choices. The text reads, "Why I quit my hot girl summer." And honestly, this is where the exegesis gets incredibly interesting. We are witnessing a major cultural collision here. I mean, hot girl summer is a massive secular meme associated with carefree, unattached dating. But here, within a faith-based framework, the absolutely key word to focus on is quit. By featuring a story specifically about quitting a hot girl summer, the source is modeling a hard pivot from the secular to the spiritual. It represents a conscious, intentional rejection of fleeting worldly pursuits. In the context of our visual study, you just can't move from the cracked gray stone over to the smooth gold without making an active choice to leave those secular paradigms behind. It's an act of turning away from cultural trends in favor of something that's intended to be much more deeply rooted. All right, Section 4, Waiting for Divine Timing. We are now officially entering the promise phase of our study, stepping over to the radiant, golden right side of the cover. But before we read the next text, we need to define a really crucial term here, the kingdom mate. Based on context clues, this isn't just a casual partner. It defines a partner who is sought and prepared through spiritual faith and divine timing. This is the healed, golden ideal standing in direct contrast to secular dating norms. Let's see how this builds with the phrase, "Why wait on a kingdom mate?" What is absolutely vital to pull from this text is the word wait. In this framework, waiting is not positioned as some passive state of just doing nothing. Instead, because it's placed on the glowing side of the heart, it's framed as a deliberate, faith-based action.
It's an active period of trust and preparation, basically suggesting that the divine timeline is vastly superior to rushing into yet another secular relationship.
Let's look at Section 5, Signs of Spiritual Preparation. To close out our study, we're going to look at the practical takeaways. Radiating out from that golden background is a bold bonus announcement for the reader. It says, 5 signs you're being prepared for a kingdom mate. This acts as a hook, promising a sort of checklist to help the reader figure out if they are successfully navigating this spiritual journey.
Let's see how this actually builds a complete framework. Even though we don't have the magazine's interior pages to read the exact article, we can actually turn the cover's teaser into a structured takeaway just by mapping out the headlines we've already analyzed. What might those 5 signs of preparation look like based on our visual exegesis today? Well, 1, overcoming the ultimate betrayal of adultery. 2, releasing the nightmare of the toxic ex. 3, actively quitting secular trends like the hot girl summer. 4, willingly embracing the wait for divine timing. And 5, experiencing that overarching transition, moving from the cracked gray stone of a broken heart all the way to a smooth, spiritually healed heart of gold. The cover itself literally gives us the entire roadmap. As we wrap up today's visual study, I want to leave you with a question to ponder, much like we would at the end of any deep textual analysis. Based on everything we've just unpacked from the Kingdom Marriage Call, I have to ask you this. How does faith reshape our approach to the complexities of modern dating? When we view relationships through a lens of divine timing rather than, say, secular trends, how does that alter the way we heal from the past and prepare for the future? It is a truly fascinating paradigm shift to consider. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this structured study brought some clarity and sparked your curiosity today. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.